Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to a videographer out of, is it Worcester? Out of the Worcester area?
Yep.
Kayla Ebner. So there you go. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. So I started my business, K Ebner Creative, back in April of 2022. I've always been interested in photography, I would say. So I started in photo.
Oh, okay.
That's like my original. I was the one taking pictures of flowers and doing photo shoots with my friends. So in high school, you know, I would have like the little digital camera. And then I upgraded. My parents got me a DSLR for Christmas. Started with Canon. I am now Sony shooter.
All right.
That was recent. That was this year I made that switch. But I've always loved taking photos in some capacity. And so when it was time to go to college, I wanted to do something with it, but I didn't necessarily want to major in photography. So I settled on journalism because I was good at writing.
Okay.
And the program at the school I went to, Roger Williams University, had a ton of different classes. They had photojournalism, sports photojournalism, broadcast. So I knew I was going to get all of that experience with the camera while also maybe getting a couple other skills that I would not have gotten if I went straight photography.
Nice.
So that's what I decided to do, and it was the best decision ever. I learned a lot through that major. And I also did so many extracurriculars at the school that gave me that photography experience, that like extra side thing. So I got really involved. It was a D3 athletic school, so I could get on the field. I could get up in the players' faces. So I was taking photos at a lot of the sports games. I really liked the action of it. I'm super into fitness, so that was really fun for me. And back home, there was a gym that I was going to, a really small style family gym. So I took photos there. So I got like a lot of that creative experience through college and just doing it outside of that. And then ended up working for a business journal out of college. Didn't last very long. I wasn't able to be as creative as I wanted to.
I remember that conversation.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time there, but I decided I really wanted to move out of the writing direction and into the creative direction with the camera. So got a little bit of experience there, and then I moved into a media company that was primarily real estate media. Yep. But that's where I was able to deepen my technical skills, is what I would say. So I got a lot of technical experience there. Video and photo, Yep, I mean, I was pretty comfortable with photo at that point anyways, but video was like, that's when I really dialed it in. I did a lot of real estate media, but I was able to hop in on other projects on the side. And so that was a lot of fun for me. And I just decided, hey, I want to start my own business and see where my potential is going to go, and see where I can take this. Because I had felt like I kind of plateaued at that job.
I remember you talking about that.
And that scared me because I was 26, 25 at the time. So I was like, I'm way too young to be feeling like I'm not learning or growing. So the feeling of, you know, not learning anything new necessarily, it freaked me out a little bit. So I was like, let me really push.
So plateau, I feel like is a good word where it's not like you're going down, but you're not going up either. So what made you kind of not transition completely out of photo, but lean more towards and start a business based on video? What was like the trigger and or the catapult that kind of put you in that direction?
Yeah, I think it was kind of social media driven. I want to say there's so much emphasis on video for all these platforms nowadays. And I was like, you know what? It's another thing that I can add to my list of services. So I started getting into it and I actually really liked it. It's a different process when you're planning out like what I call a video business card for a business. Think of a brand shoot for photography. It might include some products, maybe some shots of staff, interacting with clients, showcasing services. And then when you take that and turn it into video, you need a script. You need a lot of narrative. It's like a whole different process.
So you're almost become a producer and a director.
Yeah, I was like really interested in that part of it, and I really enjoyed that part of it. So going into a business and learning the ins and outs of it to tell that story through video, I was like, immediately, I loved it.
Because you already had the writing bug in you from the beginning.
See, it's almost like my way of weaving journalism into my craft.
Yeah, and I feel like that is the not a wall, and I don't mean, that's what separates video from photo. Both tell a story. You can tell a story with an image.
Yes.
You can get feeling and get an emotion from seeing a still image. With photo, there's movement to it. So there's, when it's done the right way. I've seen some videos that were just not done the right way. And I feel like that's the difference with photo and video. They both go hand in hand. So later on, we're going to talk about how beneficial and how well two teams can work together. Now, when you and I met, that was the first time we ever met. And at the end of the night, the bride was saying to me how cool it was to see you guys working together as a team. Well, both of us came in with the mindset of preferring the other above the other. But so with video, I do feel like you have to be that director. You have to be that producer. You have to give instruction. So for photo, I just give instruction, stand there, turn here, pose like this, and click, and there's my image. With video, it's completely different. There's a whole movement to everything, and people forget that part.
Yeah.
So now that we know that was the catapult, and that's how it got in there. So now you're based out of Worcester.
Yes.
But you do travel all over.
I do. Well, I would say mostly Massachusetts and Connecticut, and then Rhode Island.
Yeah, but you travel.
But I do travel.
You travel.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's going to make a difference with other people, is because some people won't travel. Now, I don't do anything destination. I would love to. I've got a passport. I'll go.
So you're open to it.
Yeah, I'm open to it, but the timing would have to be like absolutely perfect, because if I leave for Bermuda on Thursday to go shoot a wedding on Saturday, I got to be back by Tuesday because I've got another wedding. So I feel like when you're a destination, it eats up a lot of other days that you could possibly be shooting.
Right.
So that's the tricky part about that.
From what I've heard from people who have done the destination game, especially in weddings, they do it for a couple of years and then they're done. It's exhausting. I mean, think about how exhausting it is doing weddings and not traveling.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted going to a wedding 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Girl, are you kidding me? I'm getting on a plane for that.
Yeah.
You got to carry all your equipment. So
gear, that's another way to pack your gear. That's
oh my
another
God.
thing.
So
I've heard some destination places have been including photographers and video in their packages. So because it's included in the package of X, Y, and Z of the venue, if I give them a price of X, Y, Z to go out there, they'd be like, wow, that's a lot more expensive because this is already included in that.
Yep.
But what I have noticed is, and I say this in the very most humbling professional way, is I don't feel like they have the quality and the creativity that when you're included in a venue and included in a package, your rate is flat. So they get paid X for just coming, doing, no matter what they do, they're going to get paid X.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, and I'm sure you feel the same way when you're doing your videos and things like that, it's a lot of it has to do with the day of shooting, but then a lot of it has to do with the post and afterwards and how you process and things like that. So what is your process of, you drive home from your wedding, 2 hours, whatever it is, you get home. For me, the first thing I do is back up.
Me too.
So, what's your process?
So I get home and I immediately start offloading cards. And another difference I feel like from photo and video is I'm backing up not only SD cards, which I write to 2 cards in both my cameras because I'm a freak and paranoid.
100%.
You have to for a wedding.
You have to.
You can't get the back if a card gets corrupted. So people who do not shoot with 2 SD cards in their camera,
they're brave.
God bless your soul. It's not for me.
Yeah.
So immediately back up to an SD, or sorry, what do I use? SSD.
Yeah,
so it's an SSD. I use like the fast drives. Those work really well for me. I don't format the SD cards until it's backed up into 2 places. Yep. I get freaked out.
I still don't even format until after I deliver.
Oh my God,
really? That's how much of a freak I am.
I need to get more SD cards. Okay, so you're extra careful.
How could you not
I
be?
know. As long as it's in 2 places, I
Correct.
feel very secure.
I agree. As long as it's in 2, you're safe.
Usually I have it in 3, but.
And there's not 2 is good, 3 is better. But I feel like that's excessive.
It is a little
So that would not be advice for somebody coming into photography video. Don't have the mindset of triple checking, but don't feel like you have to back up in 3 places.
Right.
Go ahead. So go on.
So not only do I have the camera footage, but I also usually have at least 2 formats of audio that I need to back up. So I have lavalier mics. I use Tascam DR10Ls. They're the best. So those are usually like for the officiants, the grooms, things like that, for ceremony stuff, first looks, all that. So I have to back that audio up. I have a backup TX660 Sony. So that one I stick it in, an inside jacket pocket or something. That's like a backup. I put it on the microphone for speeches.
So not just video, you're backing up all audio files also.
Yeah. Most of the time. If I'm really exhausted, I'll leave the audio for the morning, but I like to know that everything is in a place.
Yeah.
And then I use the Zoom F3 if there's a DJ and a speaker I can plug into or a sound system of some sort. I will back up that audio too. And then if there's drone, I have the drone card.
Yeah. So
it's a lot of backing up.
That is, and I feel like that's a normal day though.
Yeah.
That's every wedding. You have all of the possibilities of backups depending on what you use for that day.
Yeah.
So that part I understand and I get, but people forget about that part. There's a lot being involved with everything that we do. Backup is the first thing that we do.
Right.
So would you are you more of a documentary style or more of I feel like cinematic is just a style. I don't mean it that way.
It is a style. It's not mine.
But
I can.
Yeah.
I can do it. My style, I don't know if I've heard it anywhere else, but how I like to tell people I shoot is a candid style. So I'm not going to, I see all these videos that are very fancy weddings and the bride and groom are, not smiling really in all those the cinematic shots. They're like very serious face. It's all very cinematic detail shots. I do cinematic detail shots, but I would like to say that most of my couples are like very fun, like lighthearted. They just want their day captured.
Yeah.
They just want to be able to look back on it and see all of the little moments that they didn't catch. So that's what I like to say is I take a candid approach. That doesn't mean I'm standing here just doing nothing, giving no direction.
Correct.
I'm doing, I'm giving as much direction as needed, working with the photographer. Obviously, it depends on who it is.
Yep.
Try not to make every shot, have to do it twice. I try to use, a back and forth. But I just try to capture the day as it unfolds and capture the little moments that the bride and groom are obviously very busy during their day. So the moments that they're not going to see that they want to remember forever.
Correct.
The elderly grandparents playing with the grandkids, those small moments, the dad that never dances, hitting the dance floor, all that stuff. Like maybe you're not able to catch that. So I like to put together a video that helps you just really relive that day.
Yeah. And I feel like cinematic is more of a style, but I feel like every videographer is going to approach it just like a photographer. We're all going to approach it the same day. It's about getting all of the details and all of the moments. So the post process in how editing comes off, and I do feel like you were right because the two, weddings that we did together, those are very fun, energetic, younger couples who just like everything was, fun and that helps me and people like you come in and do our job because I don't feel like we have to pull from them to do this and pull from them to do that because they're up for almost anything. And the timing makes a difference too. One of the weddings that you and I did, we went to the DJ and we were like, hey, we're going to go do this outside. He was like, go ahead, you got plenty of time. It was a Portuguese wedding, so it's very, very laid back. And we're like, okay, well, just letting you know. He goes, oh, you got plenty of time. And I feel like every wedding is different. I've been in some weddings where there's no time. And pressed to the wire, pressed to the minute on, oh my God, we have to get back to get this. And I get those days. I've seen those days. I don't like those days, but I feel like that's where a true professional shines the most, because with limited time, you got to get the best you can get in the first shot.
Yep.
And there's no retakes or, hey, do that walking one more time.
Right.
Hey, do that spinning one more time. There's no time to do that. So since we're on the subject about that, how do you approach working with other photographers?
I usually try to get a gauge on their personality right away. So, for example, I try to introduce myself to the photographer right away, because you're going to be with this person all damn day long, like all day.
Yeah.
So whether or not it's going to be a good experience or a bad one, I want to know what it's going to be right away. So I introduce myself usually beforehand. I ask the couple who the photographer is, and I try to follow them on Instagram beforehand.
Oh, good point.
Get a sense of their style.
Good point.
Maybe even shoot them a message. Hey, I'm the videographer for this wedding. I'll see you, blah, 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 whatever. But I try to get to know them right away. There was one wedding this year where I wasn't able to do that because the photographer wasn't there. They were there after me, which was a weird experience. Usually photographers get there first.
Or at the same time.
Right, exactly. So it's very obvious to me, like in the very first 15 minutes, how it's going to go. And if it's going to be more of this is my take on it. I feel like photographers are almost the directors of the day, because I've shot photo weddings too. So I feel like photographers work hand in hand with the wedding planners. If there is a wedding planner on the day, they kind of like dictate the timeline almost. So like you guys are directing how things go, and I try to, as a videographer, be respectful of the shots that you need to get. I do feel like you have more responsibility in terms of you need to get all of the family, all of the bridal party, which videographers don't always stick around for that part.
Correct.
So it's a lot, I feel like it's almost a little bit more pressure on the photographers in terms of a directing standpoint of, it's a lot more posing, it's a lot more just giving direction in general.
For sure.
I think that's a difficult part about being a photographer, is like you're kind of controlling how the day goes. You got to keep things moving.
And if you are not a bolder or one that can take the initiative, then I feel like you're going to struggle with photography and doing weddings, because you have to be able to dictate, you have to delegate, you have to dictate, and you have to organize, and you have to pose.
Yep, and you have to
without being a barking out orders like a cattle call.
I have seen that before.
Okay, who's next?
Yeah.
Okay, who's next? Parents and grandparents do not get that vibe, and they just strongly dislike that, and it comes off as being bossy and yelling. And the other side of that is sometimes you have to be like that because you've got a timeline that's got to be, when the wedding starts 20 minutes late, they don't slow the food down.
Right.
That comes out of your photography time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yep.
Because if you got to be done by 4, because we're eating at 4:30 and you still got to do toast and first hands, you're cutting your time. There's just no other way about it. So and I do agree.
Every wedding runs at least 10 to 15 minutes late. Every wedding.
I had one run 45 minutes late.
Me too.
Yeah. 45 minutes late, and it was just there's no way to recoup that. There's just no way to recoup that.
I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off for the rest of the time.
Yeah. So I the first day that you and I had met, it was right off the bat, instant connection. There was almost like we've known each other for like 5 years. It was that
good energy immediately.
It was like, okay, you're here to do this, I'm here to do this. So my approach when I'm approaching any photo video day is I will line everybody up, and then I will tell my couples also, I'm going to take my pictures, don't move, because the video person is going to come through and she's going to do some fun stuff with some moving and having you guys some cheering and stuff like that. So there's an efficiency that has to happen when you've got two teams trying to accomplish the same goal.
Right.
It has to be efficient. So whenever I'm working with a videographer, I'll say to the video, I'm going to do the rings right now. I have them right here with me. Do you want to come with me? Or the shoes or the dress. If we can piggyback off of a similar We don't want the video and the images to be the same. We want them to be close enough where when you're doing with movement, it's different than just taking a still of the rings. So I will always say, this is what I'm going to do with this. And they're here. So when I go to the shoes, feel free to take that and do whatever you want to do. So we almost like work very efficiently. So we doing everything's at the same time. So you're doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and then you move to the next spot. For me, a picture with the dress hanging up from the wall is sufficient. A picture with the bride holding the outer part of the dress is out is sufficient. For video, you want to see her pulling through the fabric. You want to see her touching the fabric. So there's movement to that. So there has to be a person that can say, okay, we're going to start with that. Great. Okay, Ron, my turn. Bang. And now we're going to step in and we'll do this. I will almost never, ever, ever do anything without the videographer knowing.
I appreciate that.
And it's true.
It's not always the
Here's
case.
what happened. Last weekend, I was doing a wedding, and I asked the groom and one of the groomsmen, hey, if you guys want to do something funny. So they did a funny thumbs up, and then the next guy comes in, did like a headlock, and then the next guy come in and did something funny. So we're having fun. And then I was like, okay, the last guy comes up, and now the video guy's got the bride off over there.
And it's only one videographer?
Yeah, no, two videographers.
Oh, two,
yeah.
Okay.
So I had my photo with me, and he was off doing the bride's veil and things like that. So he just I was only working with the guys, so he was working with the girls.
Okay.
We've done that.
Yes.
So I said, okay. So he goes, okay, you ready? I was like, ready for what? He goes, we're going to do something. I was like, okay. He goes, just be ready.
Uh-oh.
So I put my camera into, 15 frames per second, and I'm ready to shoot because I didn't know what he was going to do.
Right.
And now they're standing 4 feet apart. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready. He walks up, puts his foot in his hand, flips him up in the air, and does a complete somersault in the air and lands right back down
Wow,
on his
that's
feet.
fun.
Yeah, you know what
Was this
sucked?
outside?
Yeah. You know what sucked? The video guy was over there.
Oh, no.
I felt so bad for him. I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't know what he was going to do.
You didn't know.
I had no idea.
You didn't know. Yeah.
So I'm like,
That's so
oh. So
Can you do it again?
yeah, I did.
You did.
I did. I swear to God. I know I like this. I was like, oh my God, that's too good not to do.
Right.
I was like, hey, come on over here for a second. So he comes over, and I told him what he did. And he goes, can you do it again? He goes, it's been 10 years since they did that one. He goes,
so
yeah, let's try it again. So now the video guy came over here. He laid down on the ground. He did the whole backflip in the air again. Suspender went flying off in the middle of the thing like that.
God.
And he did it.
This
is what teams do.
Mm-hmm.
We need to work together when it comes to this, so that if I would have gotten that in a picture and then he didn't get it in his video, so when he delivers his final product to them, they'll be like, oh, Ron got the flip in the air and he didn't get that. There's a piece missing to the puzzle.
Right.
So when you're working with the dress, make sure the video guys, and I won't do anything. If I go outside and do my champagne toast like we did that time with you, hey, we're going to do champagne.
Yes.
I sent my drone up in the air, took pictures of that. You're there side of me, my second shooter, and we just shot it one time with all of the spray going up in the air. So we both got the same thing, different angles. Click, click, click for me, and you've got that, slow motion, do whatever you want, and it worked out perfect. Teams have to work together for the sake of the bride and groom.
Yes, we're all trying to do the same thing.
We have to.
Now, if you did not like the videographer, how do you approach it? Like if they're just being
professionally.
difficult. Yeah.
Professionally.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
Tell them when those moments are happening, or do you tell them?
No, I don't want him to ever say to the bride, Ron didn't tell me this, and Ron didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
And let's just cover this. The bride should never know if there's a discrepancy with the DJ, with the vendors.
I had an issue with the photographer this year, and I didn't say a word.
Nope.
Didn't say a word.
Never.
Handle it. You just deal with it. You suck it up.
You do.
Yeah.
Professionally.
Yes.
So
yes.
If there's ever, I work with a lot of different people, and they're all excellent at what they do. I've never had a problem with any vendor. The only problem I had was one DJ that I worked with. I said, hey, I'm going outside to do pictures with the rings. Okay. I go outside. I'm literally laying flat on the ground. I've got the sunset going down behind. The wedding couple was gifted a bottle of whiskey. So I took their rings and put it on top, and it was really nice. I'm laying down on the ground, got my macro lens on, flat. I'm laying there like this, and I hear the DJ, okay, we're going to do the father-daughter dance.
Without me?
I'm like, what? And I was like, no. And he starts playing the song.
Oh, no.
I got a macro lens on. I've got their thousands of dollars in their diamonds, in their rings, in my hand. I had to run back in,
change your lens,
change my lens, put my flash back on, and I got the last 30 seconds of the song. I was so mad. I didn't let the bride know. I didn't say anything to anybody. And it's just a courtesy that you let the other vendors know what you're doing. Hey, wedding coordinator, we're going outside. Hey, DJ, we're going to do champagne spray. We'll be gone I'm going to go get everything prepped. We're going to be gone for 5 to 7 minutes. We're back in by 10. That's all we're going to be gone.
Right.
So there's a right way and a wrong way. If somebody gave me a cold shoulder, I don't know what I would do if somebody didn't tell me that the video person took the bride and groom outside for some special sunset or whatever, and they didn't tell me. I would be flipping mad. I wouldn't say a word. I would be flipping mad, but I would definitely, that's not something you do.
Right.
You work together as a team, or you should not be doing your job at all.
Yeah. Right. There's nothing better than having a vendor team where you just like all crush it together.
100%.
It's so good. And one thing I really liked about what you did, and this I think really speaks to people who have a lot of experience in the industry, because I'm still learning, but I knew the second we started working together that you had a lot of experience and that you were 100% qualified to be doing what you were doing, because you introduced me when the whole wedding party was together. You said, I'm Ron, this is Kayla. She's going to be doing video. You said what you said earlier. You were like, if I'm doing a shot with you, don't move. She might want to do an extra shot, like all that stuff. You said that we were going to be working together on things, and you established that right from the beginning. Because one of the things that I've learned that I need to do is tell the wedding party, you guys are going to be looking at the photographer. Don't look at my camera unless I direct you, because for video, you don't necessarily want everyone to be looking at the camera all the time.
Correct.
So like if I am piggybacking off of a shot that you are getting to save time, I don't want people looking at my camera. You want people looking at your camera.
Yeah.
So making sure people are paying attention to the photographer, only look at me when I direct you to, and we might be getting a couple different shots. So just, stay put until we're both satisfied and we feel like we got what we need.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that, because I do, first of all, experience and professionalism go hand in hand. You can be a professional and you can just be a jerk at being it. You can be experienced and so haughty that you don't let anybody else in, and that's not professional.
No.
So I pride myself on being that way as much as possible, because I want, and that was just the right thing to do.
Right.
I'm walking up saying, hey, it's not just me. We've got another team here that's going to be doing the same thing. When we were there was a lake there. There was a sunset. There was the whole dock down the bottom. So there was so much like creative stuff that could have happened. And this is where teams work together. Like, hey, Kayla, tell you what, I want to go down by the water, down where that dock is. Where do you and I need to be in order to get that? Do not feel like I have all of the answers in the world. I feel like talking to another creative that does similar but different, because what works for me, I can eliminate the backlight with the sun coming through the back by adding a flash. For a video, it's a little bit harder to do because it ends up being too, backlit for the couple. So there's things like that, like, okay, well, if we turn them this way, that would be better. Oh, you know what? That's just as good for me. Creatives need to put their heads together and not be like, well, this is what I'm going to do, and you can do whatever you want, because that's not going to get you anywhere. And I feel like there definitely is a reputation that goes on within the vendor industry that if somebody has a bad experience, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying backbiting, and I'm not saying, saying something bad about people and talking behind their back. I'm just saying there's a certain amount of people that when you have a good experience with them, they're going to find out how it was that you worked with Ron that time, and he said he had nothing but great things to say about you. The next time you work with that photographer, you'd be like, wow, Ron said you were this good and that talented, and here let's work together. That's the difference.
Totally.
Same thing when you get a bad reputation also. If you do something like disregarding other people's, or talking over the photographer says this, and you're like, no, do this instead. In front of other people, that's a no-no.
Right.
If you've got another creative idea, call them aside.
Yes.
Hey, Ron, what do you think about this? Well, it doesn't work for photo. Go ahead and let me get my shot, and then go ahead and get your shot.
Right.
That's how you work as a team.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know. I think people make it a lot more complicated than it needs to be.
They do.
I just try to get along with everybody.
Yeah. The end result
It's
is,
not that hard.
I don't care if I'm having a bad day. I don't care if you're having a bad day. Together, the bride and groom do not have a bad day.
Right.
Squash it, settle it, do whatever you got to do. The bride and groom at the end of the day are the only ones that matter. And to this day, she is still posting pictures and shouting us out on both of them because she thought we were like an actual team that worked together all the time. And that was the first time we worked together. Mm-hmm. That's the difference with professionalism when it comes to that. So
totally.
What do you feel like, are there any trends video-wise that you think are happening right now?
That's a great question. I feel like people are doing some documentary style, which I like. I've done a documentary style wedding video this year, and it's a lot more involved. We basically interviewed the entire wedding party. So definitely having 2 shooters is required. But you're basically asking the maid of honor, she's a childhood best friend, like, tell me about the first time you met your friend's now husband. Like, what was that like? What did you think of him? So they're telling you all these stories. So
you come up with the question first
then. It's definitely like it's a joint effort. The bride in this case sent me a couple questions for specific people. Okay. That way I'm not trying to get to know what questions I should ask them.
Good point.
If this is your childhood best friend growing up, like, you're going to ask them a different set of questions than like a college friend.
Correct. You are absolutely correct. Yeah.
I asked her to help me out with that, and she was great.
And I think that was very professional and smart. So you're not fishing for questions for...
So I'm not asking the wrong things.
Exactly.
Irrelevant questions. Because it's also, when you're doing a documentary style wedding, you need a lot more information, but you're not getting more time. Yeah. It's the same amount of time in the day. Yeah. So it's a whole different animal.
So that's pretty cool that's almost like a trend right now. So do you feel like, obviously microphones come into play, do you take them off during the reception into a separate place, and are you recording video and audio at that moment, or are you just doing audio to kind of overlap it on the video afterwards?
It's both video and audio. Okay. We tried to get most of the interviewing done before the ceremony, like during the getting ready stage. Wow.
What if there's no time? Right. I'm gonna throw a wrench in there. Kayla, we just showed up. Ceremony's gonna start at 2:00, and you got there. You weren't hired until 1, and you still have to do getting ready prep. And we want the documentary style, so you have to. If you traditionally do it before the ceremony, how would you approach that? Now you've got 1 hour to do all of that. Details and dress and things like that have to come first because there's no going back to after the ceremony.
I would say I can't do it unless it's an 8-hour package. That's just like that's a hard no for me.
And I feel like professionally that's smart. Yeah. Because if you try and get all of that done in a 6-hour time, so now if you didn't do it before the ceremony, when would you do it? Meaning the documentary, you're interviewing 5 people of the wedding party.
I ended up interviewing a couple people outside of the reception tent. Okay. So it was after the events had happened, the first dances, the speeches. It was after that. Also got to keep in mind lighting. So this was during the summer, so it was light out until late.
Good point.
If not, I have a couple constant lights that I bring. So I could have just popped one of those out of the tent and brought those out.
So ideally before ceremony, plan B would be after the reception or after the walk-ins and intros, like during dinner time, kind of thing like that. Okay,
because you don't want to get people after they're drinking too much. No,
yeah, but some people start drinking before the ceremony.
True, very true. Which is okay. You just have to. Some things don't make the cut. Sorry, some things don't make the cut. They make the blooper reel though.
Yeah, that is a really good point.
It just doesn't make the cut.
People just. They love to party and they love to have a good time. Yep. But there's just, once they start getting stupid, I mean, that's when I just got to say, okay, enough's enough when it comes to that. And I really wish I want people to have a good time. I want to photograph everything that's happening. I had a wedding last weekend where the guy was doing the worm. So he went up and like this, and like this, and like this. And we were like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's so cool. the first time.
Uh-oh.
All right. Well, then when you do it 15 minutes later, and when you do it 15 minutes later, I don't need to photograph that all 7 times that you're doing that.
30 minutes of dancing is plenty.
Yeah. And this is where this the stupidness of, I don't mean people are stupid. I mean that's when alcohol kicks in.
Yeah.
And it gets
Nobody
to that
wants to see themselves like that either.
No. And the brides and grooms, they'll think that it's funny, but it's not going to make the highlight reel when it comes to that.
Right. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was things that you have seen this year that you've liked at weddings, and things that you've seen that you're not a huge fan of. And I have a couple things on my list. I don't have many things that I don't like.
I feel like the garter belt is a pastime.
I've never seen it.
Because you don't see that anymore. It gets a little dicey when the 14-year-old girl catches it because she's the smallest and in the front, and then the 55-year-old guy catches the garter and she catches the bouquet. And traditionally, you put the garter belt on the person's leg of the person. And no 55-year-old should be touching a 14-year-old.
See, I didn't know what even was supposed to happen with that.
I'm going to tell you a quick story right now.
Oh, gosh.
The garter belt bouquet got tossed and 2 people went running for it. And then one girl got it. The other girl was disappointed. They go walking away. All the guys come up and, they take the garter belt off and, he picks it up and then 3 guys line up for that and they throw the garter belt and, 3 guys dive for that. And then it lines up where they start playing that Magic Mike song.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And it gets really, when you've had that liquid courage for the past 4.5 hours and, you ain't dancing like Magic Mike, even though you think you are, it's not the same. So they start dancing in that way. And then he starts putting it up the leg and he was like, doing a whole bunch of stuff to the leg. He's licking the bottom of her foot.
No.
Yeah. So,
I think I'd put the camera down at that point.
And I'm like,
no way.
Yeah. So bouquet toss is going away. Garter belt is going away. I feel like, not that I don't dislike, so I don't hate them and don't dislike them. The shoe game.
I've seen that.
That is a very long process because I've done them with 50 questions.
Huh?
Yeah.
At the wedding?
At the wedding.
At the reception?
At the reception.
Wow.
Yeah. Who was the first to say, I love you? This hand up, that hand up. And then you got 50 questions in and it just takes too much time.
Interesting.
I don't mind the anniversary dance, which is all the married couples come out onto the floor. Yeah, all the married couples come out to the floor. And then if you've been married less than 5 hours, you step off. And then the next person then kneels. Because I love getting it down to that last couple that's been married for 65 years. To me, that's legacy. Yep. That's like the moment right there. And it could be their grandparents or it could be just a guest of the wedding. That I love.
Yes.
I just hate the 15 minutes leading up to, getting to the last person kind of thing like that.
Yeah, true.
And they all say the same thing. The bride's always right. That's their advice to the thing. So a few things that I've not strongly disliked, but those are a few things that I kind of like in the during part of the day is like, oh my God, I can't wait for it to be over.
Yes.
The parts that I do like of the wedding is I love the first look. I love the first look because I just did a wedding tip Wednesday yesterday. And the first look, when it's done privately on the side in a controlled environment, a guy will have more emotion because there's nobody watching him.
Yes.
If you wait till the beginning of the aisle and he comes walking down, he's going to have that emotion, but he's going to bottle it up because there's 125 people staring at you. So you don't get the same emotion.
Right.
But I love that part of that. So as far as trends wise, lately people have been doing their formal pictures before the ceremony.
Yep.
Which is not traditional.
Your life easier, right?
Well, now the brides are starting to they want to be at the cocktail hour.
Right.
So they don't want to be gone for an hour.
I don't blame them at all. Because then you don't have to go around to everybody at the reception.
Correct.
You can just say hi to people at the cocktail hour, and then you can catch who you missed.
Yeah.
What do you feel about, speaking of first looks and walking down the aisle, what do you feel about women who say, if he doesn't cry when I come down the aisle, I'm turning back around?
There's nothing you can do.
It's really, it hurts my heart. Some guys just aren't going to cry.
They're not. Do you know why?
Okay.
Because it's 130 people staring at you.
Exactly. I feel like it's almost forced, like women almost want to
100%.
force them to cry. It's like, are you going to cry? Yeah. I've heard vendors.
I've heard that.
Actually, it was a photographer, ask the groom, are you going to cry? Yeah. I just think that's inappropriate. Yeah. They're going to feel, like, let them feel the emotions they're going to feel. It made me like, it's one of those things that made me cringe a little bit.
Because you know what you just did? In that guy's mind, you just triggered, oh, I better be ready for that because now that I know it's coming, we just going to bottle that down and suppress it.
Right.
Once every 10 weddings, a man will actually uncontrollably kind of, head down, kind of wiping their eyes kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I give my second shooter instructions. The second the bride comes over there, you leave the spot that you're at, you go stand at the end of the aisle, you shoot whatever lens you've got, you do not take your eyes off that groom at all whatsoever. I don't care if you're looking at me over here, you be ready for shooting because we don't know what he's going to do.
Right.
If he does it, we get it. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't do it, we're prepared either way. Mm-hmm. But when you tell somebody, oh, you're going to cry at this time, 9 times out of 10, they're not.
Right.
Because now you've just prepped them to that and you've got 130 people staring at you. Mm-hmm. It's not what guys are going to do. Yeah. They just don't do that. They just don't do that.
And I feel like one of the things that I was going to say that I don't love about how some weddings are going, and I don't believe that I was at any of them, maybe one, but it's become about the show and not about the couple, not about you.
What do you mean?
I feel like people are doing things for the photos, for the video, to impress other people or to make other people happy rather than just celebrating them on their day. Like, I feel like I've seen
making
just
it more of a production?
Unnecessary things. Yeah.
Really?
It's become more about the whole production of it and rather like just having a day, sharing the love between the two people. Like, I shot one of my favorite weddings ever. It's my favorite wedding ever. And I don't want to say because I don't want to make anyone else feel bad.
Correct.
But there was no like fancy schmancy anything. They got ready. She didn't even really want too much getting ready video. She was so chill. She wasn't like, I mean, you're going to be nervous on the wedding day, and that's okay, but she wasn't like stressed out about anything, that something wasn't going to be perfect. Yeah. They didn't do a first look. He saw her when she came down the aisle. He didn't cry. He smiled. He was happy to see her. That's also an acceptable emotion. I mean, if they're deadpan, I would be like a little, well, but he was happy to see her. Yeah. And they just had their day and they did what they wanted. Yeah. And it wasn't about anyone else. It wasn't for show. It was just to have a day. Yeah. And it was so amazing.
And then you get the next 10 weddings that turn into a production. Yeah. And when it turns into that, it turns into so much stuff in too short of time.
Exactly.
And then it just gets to be too bogged up. And then if you start 20 minutes late, you somehow have to make that time up when it comes to that. So.
Yep. So I think that was one of the things, like something along the lines of just too much packed into the day. Another thing I don't love is a super short ceremony.
I'm finding that a lot lately.
That is tough.
15 minutes and under.
15 and under?
15 and under.
20 minutes, I think, okay, all right. 15 or 10, that's a lot of pressure. If you're shooting solo especially, if you have 2 shooters, you're going to be fine. And I can get the photos I need by myself in 10 to 15 minutes, but I am going to be stressing. And I feel like I'm more likely to be disruptive because I'm like walking around everywhere trying to, like, and you don't necessarily know how long the ceremony is going to be. I tried to ask general
I know ahead of time.
But I think for one of my most recent weddings, they said it was going to be 20 minutes and it was 10. So you don't always know.
Correct.
Correct. The couple sometimes probably doesn't even know. Yeah. So that is something that I'm like, I struggle with. It's short. For
me, I asked the bride and groom about how long it's going to be in our 1-month consultation prior to the wedding. About 30 minutes, Ron, 25, 30 minutes, that's it. And if they say 20, I put in my notes 30. So if we're starting at 1, I don't write 120. I write 130. that gives me a 10-minute buffer for us. We start 10 minutes late. My ceremony, my formal pictures start at 1:30. Okay.
Okay.
So I do everything in 15-minute increments. So I've also seen it where some people feel like they have to do it. I go up to the officiant. Hi, I'm so-and-so. Just want to introduce myself to you. Just kind of, you've run this through already and you've done a dry run on this a couple of times. Give me a ballpark about how long it's going to be. 10, 15, 20, like that. Yep. Okay. So now this is what I do. This is my approach to every wedding. The second the bride comes down, she goes up towards the front, they hand the hands off, and now the bride and groom are standing right across from each other. I got all my shots from the center already. I will walk down the aisle, I will go around to the other side, click, 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 nice and wide, click, 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 nice and tight. I go around the other side over here, click, 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 nice and wide, click, 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 nice and tight, then I come back to the center. I can stay in the center for another 25 minutes and still get everything that I need, but my preliminary right and my left, now if I've got a second shooter, he's always on my right or he's always on my left.
Right.
So I'm covered.
Okay.
In the first 5 minutes, I've got every shot I need except for the handing off of the rings,
right,
and except for the kiss, which happens at the end. That's it.
Yeah.
I do all of that stuff up front. So if it's 5 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, if it's 15, if it's 30 minutes, if it's a Catholic wedding, it's an hour. Get everything up in the front so you're covered.
Yep. That's a good point.
Right away.
For video, I always have one tripod, camera on a tripod pointed at the officiant bride and groom the whole time rolling. And then the other times I'm capturing, bridal party or just a different angle of the bride and groom or guests, facial expressions. We love a dad that's, dad.
Yeah, exactly.
All that stuff.
Once you've got your preliminaries, now it's just head on a swivel watching anything else. If you see the bridesmaids kind of putting their hand up to their face kind of thing like that, that's always a good shot.
Yes.
But at least you've got everything angled. Once they turn the rings over, click, 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 you've got what you want. Putting the ring on, I'll shoot at 70 to 200, so I'll zoom into 200, just getting that ring being pressed on. Then I've got my 70 to 24 to 70 to get my wide shot. Then she puts his ring on, done. Then it's a matter for that kiss. And I always tell them, try and hold the kiss for 3 to 5 seconds, just so we can get the extra shots. Sometimes the officiant will stand there, so when they go in and kiss, you could see the officiant behind their head. I had the one person the other day actually duck down, and then I had one officiant actually get up and move completely out of the way.
Most of them definitely move.
People,
as long as you hold the kiss long enough, they move.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And some people don't. They get nervous because people are watching them, and I get that. So, so what else have you got for?
Long speeches. What's a long speech for you? There's only so many photos you can get of somebody talking. For me, I'm thinking of a wedding that I shot this year, and I love when a person giving a speech will stand next to the couple and not move an inch because that way I can put a tripod on the bride and groom and I can put a tripod on the speech giver and I'm good and I can use my gimbal to get other shots of guests, laughing or crying or anything else. I always have a camera focused on the bride and groom. It's not the issue. But some people are wanderers. And I had a long speech and a wanderer combined, and it was tough because I was just this with my gimbal the whole time. I think it ended up being like 13 minutes, which is long.
I've had speeches 35 minutes.
Don't know what I would do.
It baffles me. I did a whole YouTube video about this whole thing, and I'm going to link it down below. It is the thing that people just have. They think they have the freedom to just say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and they don't have the capacity to understand that it's best to stand. The best man stands on the groom's side, and then the maid of honor stands on the bride's side. That's traditionally how. And if you don't have. They tend to wander because of nerves.
Yes.
They wander because of nerves, and I get that.
Or like they want to direct their attention to other people in the crowd, which is this case.
But I've seen they really should be 5 minutes and under. 7 minutes top. They just need to condense it. I've had some best man speeches talk about where they went for their bachelor party and we can't mention that. We can't show you the pictures. And that's not what you mention you don't mention that at a wedding. You don't talk about girlfriends and past girlfriends and you don't talk about stuff like that at a wedding. And this guy was just going 35 minutes long.
Yikes.
35 minutes long to the point where the DJ actually had to kind of like start turning the microphone down because it was just too, you don't slow the food down. You can't.
People are hungry. That's a good point.
And this is where alcohol gets involved. I tell my brides and grooms, I send them this video prior to the wedding. Hey, take a look at this. Just give your people that are doing speeches a good heads up that they can say as whatever they need to say within a 5 to 7 minute. So I had one wedding that did that. They had 6 speeches.
Oh, yeah.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, still ended up being 30 minutes.
Yep, I know.
It should be best man, maid of honor, and if anything, a father of the bride thanking everybody to come. That should be your traditional toast and thank yous. A lot of brides lately, I've noticed, have been doing thank you speeches.
I like that.
That is something I like.
That,
when you were talking about before, we like, that's something that I like because I feel
that.
like that's genuine. That's very nice to have all these people that are coming.
I think it's a no-brainer.
It should be.
Everyone's there.
Some brides and grooms can't talk in front of people.
Yeah, you just got to say something quick. Whoever's the best one at it, you speak.
Yeah, and the other one's going to go like this because neither one of them want to do it. So then don't do it.
I know.
But I do like when the bride and groom actually get up and say thank you. It gives me a chance to get in there and get some nice pictures and some nice shots of them addressing.
It's classy.
I agree. I feel like it's a very classy thing to say.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Things I like. I only had 2 things I didn't like. I love wedding planners. Give me all the wedding planners. I have had really good experience with wedding planners this year.
I'm 50-50 on that. Only because I've had some bad experiences where they did not have my job in regards to their planning. Meaning, Ron, you're going to do this from here.
Right.
You're going to go over here because she wants to go over here. You're going to do this and you're going to go over here. The sun's setting over there.
Interesting. Yeah.
And they're like, no, we want you over here. And you have 45 minutes to do all of this, and then I'm coming to get you and come back inside. Wedding planners are good, but as long as they're not too rigid and they allow the creative to be creative.
Yes.
Don't put me in a pigeonhole and put me in front of a blank brick wall and saying, we only have 15 minutes to do this.
Here you go.
Exactly. And some wedding planners are like that because they're so rigid on the times, which I get. That's what they're paid for. I get it. Let the creatives be creative.
Yep.
Ask me, how much time do I need?
Yep.
Where do you feel like would be the best place to go in the venue prior to the wedding? Okay, Ron, you need 25 minutes. We're going to get you that 25 minutes and you go within this range of what you need to do. That would be a good wedding planner. So wedding planners are good.
Yes.
They keep things on track. If not, it's me as a photographer that keeps things on track. So I've had some doozies that just were too rigid.
Yeah, I think my negative experiences with planners have been mostly venue coordinators. There's been venue coordinators I don't even really see that day. Yeah. But a good wedding planner, I'm thinking of one specifically this year, she sent me her schedule. She was always asking me if I needed anything. She told me exactly when things were happening. She told me if anything was running late.
Yep.
She updated me on everything. In her document, she even had all of the names of all the vendors with their Instagram handles. Yep. I was like, girl, that is great. Yep. So good.
Rare.
So she was amazing.
Very rare.
Amazing.
Very rare.
It was incredible.
Yeah. Very rare.
I like a live band.
Rare.
It's exciting.
Very rare.
Because I think it's more expensive, understandably.
Much more expensive.
But I love
Much
live
more
bands.
Expensive. Yeah.
Oh my God, I've had 2 very different vibes of live bands this year. One of them was like a jazz band.
Nice.
And there were like 7 or 8 of them. There was a saxophone. There were like 3 or 4 singers. There was a guitarist and a piano player, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
One of the guys sounded exactly like Frank Sinatra.
Really?
I'm not joking. It was incredible. It's such an uplifting addition to the experience in the video. I like it.
The atmosphere is different when it comes to a live band and a DJ.
Yep.
And if you can afford, some people have both. The live band plays for a little while and then the DJ
Cocktail
plays for a little
hour,
while and things like that. I think that's another good added thing on there. But it is not, and as far as in Western Massachusetts, there's live bands, but you don't see them very often at the weddings. Why? I feel like it's just an expense.
I agree.
And I feel like it's a higher expense because now you're paying 9 guys as opposed to 1.
Right.
But some people that I feel like live band is just the atmosphere is different. Now, a good DJ can create that own atmosphere also. Lights and the music and the vibe and everything else like that. And they're talented in their own. So are bands. So both are good.
Both are good. I just really enjoyed a different experience with the band. It was so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. I do like a smaller wedding party. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. It's easier.
It's definitely easier. Like my wedding this weekend, I think there's 11 on each side.
My record is not 22 is my record.
Total?
Yeah.
So 11.
Yeah, 11.
I'm wondering how I'm even gonna.
Yeah. Challenging. Yeah. Super wide.
Wow.
Super wide.
Oh, my 24/7 will do the job.
You'll be back about 20 feet just to get them all in.
Yeah, it's okay.
It is very, I love large wedding parties because they're a lot more active and there's a lot more candid things happening when there's that many people. But it is very, very challenging having that many because there's always somebody eyes closed, mouth open during the formal pictures, and you're taking the head and swapping it off of this one over here.
Oh, no.
So it's very challenging with that many people.
Yeah, it is.
So
it totally is.
4
pros and cons.
Yeah. 2 per side, 3 per side, 4 per side is the average. I've done some where there was no best man, maid of honor. I've done some with 1 best man, 1 maid of honor. And then I've done 11 on both sides. And it's just, it's a challenge.
I feel like my average is probably like 6 or 7.
Yeah, that's about average. That's about average for everybody.
Which is, I feel like it's still a lot.
It's still challenging because you've got 6 guys that normally don't want to shut up.
Right.
Or they're always talking or joking.
Right.
Which is fine. I'd rather that than anything else.
Yep.
But then if they've been drinking prior to that and they've got flasks sticking out of their pockets, it just adds to the challenge. I actually had to go up to the bride and groom. I was like, listen, I'm doing the best that I can. I said, but somebody's going to have to wrangle him in because the more disruption he is, it distracts everybody else. And if he's talking louder than me, I'm not being heard and I can't direct if I'm not being heard.
Right.
Yeah, we noticed that, Ron. We're gonna dial it down. And then he did. I did one wedding where the formal pictures were being done and half of the guys were gone to the cocktail hour.
Jeez.
And I tell my brides and grooms, I said, once we're doing pictures, I said, they have to stay with us because if half you guys leave, they're not in your pictures. There's nothing I can do about that. Yep. The groom's like, I'll go get them. No, you can't go because you're going to get stuck out there seeing all of your guests. Right. You have to send somebody that's not part of the wedding party to go get them and bring them back.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt when you're having to wrangle people.
Yeah. It's not your job.
I've actually seen a lot of wedding parties not drinking before the ceremony, which is a smart idea.
Yep.
If you want to have like 1 or 2,
that's usually a bride rule.
Loosen it up. Right. Yes, I've seen that too.
It's usually a bride rule.
Yep.
No drinking until afterwards.
I've got a bride rule that the groom has been instructed to drink before so that he's not so uptight and nervous.
I see that too. I see both of. I see the pros and cons to both. There's just, it can't be excessive.
No,
it can't be excessive.
Oh my God.
I had one groom, not even a groom, just a guy that asked the bride if he can say something in the microphone. Oh boy. And it was 15 minutes long of just rambling, and he was completely drunk, slurring everywhere. And you just don't give the microphone to somebody like that.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, but we're.
And who are you you can't really just talk to them and say, hey, stop. Yeah. You gotta just let it happen.
Yeah. And then as a DJ, you always have these people that want to do the mic drop, and that's a $900 microphone, and they're going like this, and bang, right on the ground. And they think they're funny. They'll do their toes, hey, congratulations.
Oh,
boom.
I haven't seen that.
And the DJs freak out when their microphone gets hit in the ground.
No.
Yeah, that's happened once, not this year, but last year. 2 of them got dropped.
Wow.
Yeah. And the people think they're just being funny.
Right. But I feel like that's common sense. You must know that that's expensive.
Of course, but when you're trying to make a point, and when you just mic drop.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a couple things that happen.
Always.
That are interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what else you got over there?
Season.
I've got a couple of questions I'll ask you in a minute.
You fire away.
The editing process, and how do you handle unexpected changes with lighting, which you addressed once already, but this is the one that nobody can control, is weather.
Oh, yeah.
How do you, what I feel bad is when a bride and groom have this beautiful venue, booked it a year in advance, overlooking Pioneer Valley or the ocean or the lake or the view or whatever, and it rains and you can't even go outside underneath the tent. What is your process? How would you approach that? Okay.
I have to tell you a secret. All of my weddings that I have shot this year have been nice weather.
That's not a secret. We've had some good weather this year.
All of them.
All of them. We've had some really good weather this year.
Clear umbrellas.
Yep.
In the event
okay, good point.
that it does rain. I did an engagement session where it was raining and icky, but it was photo. But for video purposes, I have not had to deal with that.
Okay.
But I've always had the same mentality that I have used for photo, and it's just you have to make inside options work. Yep. Put them by a window, still try to get as much natural light as possible. Yep. I have lights that I bring, constant lights. I usually don't whip them out until the reception. Yep. But I would take those out and kind of do some stuff with them inside to make sure I'm getting the shots that I need. And then if you want to break out the umbrellas and do some stuff outside, because the cool thing about video is I can shoot 60 or 120 frames per second and slow that one down, and it could actually look really cool with the rain. So I've thought about it, how I would handle it, but I have not had to use it.
Good for you. Yeah, we've had some good weather this year. I don't think I've had any rainouts. Last year I had one that was beautiful venue. Washout, right? Yeah, and just completely rained, and I put my flash behind the bride. It's one of the ones up on my website. Put the flash behind the bride, put them underneath an umbrella, and just shot my flash behind them and just lit up all the raindrops.
Yes.
And that's the picture that's hanging on their mantle.
Yeah, it's cool. So you can do really cool stuff.
But if you're not creative, and if it was a monsoon, what would you do? Your answer is you find someplace inside as a plan B, and gives the bride something to be able to have to remember the day. That's a really good thing too. So I already asked you about the trends that were happening. What advice would you give couples that reach out to you with a clean slate? We love your work, want to work with you. What advice would you give them right off the bat? So they're a year out from their wedding and they've already booked you. What 5 tips would you give a wedding couple? Yeah. And nothing to do with any other vendor. No photo, no DJs, hire this guy, get this guy.
Just to get a successful video.
Yeah. Just for you to get a successful video, what 5 tips could you give your bride and groom that just reached out to you?
That's a great question. I think the first thing I would say is just plan the day exactly how you want it to be. 1,
go. That's excellent. That's great advice right there.
2, I would say mentally prepare for being on camera. So practice poses.
Good point.
Practice some sort of poses.
Good point.
Just so you're not, doing it the first time that day.
Correct.
So if you're going to do a dip at the end of the aisle, just practice it.
Yep.
So that you know.
That's a really good point.
A photo tip.
Practice a dip.
Yeah.
Some people don't know how to dip.
Right. And I've seen a couple dodgy ones, which is okay.
Let me interject
For a photo, you can capture a still frame and have it halfway good. For a video, I'm getting the whole failure, so practice.
I'm going to interject. So we got 2 from you right now. Let me interject this. Every time the bride and groom, they're in their last dance and they're doing their first dance and they're going around the dance floor doing everything they want to do, and all of a sudden they go in for that dip, and I always have the groom's back facing me.
I know.
Every single time. I don't know
I
what
love when
it is.
they do it multiple times because I'm always in the wrong spot.
My brides and grooms were doing it one time. We're doing it one time.
It's a lot to ask. I think it's harder than it looks.
Last week, I had a maid of honor do a special thing that they did at her wedding. So the maid of honor was with the bride, and she's like, I want to dip her because that's what we did at my wedding. I said, no problem. Yeah, it's cute. And she dipped and went all the way over and fell right to the ground.
No.
Right at the beginning of all of the formal pictures. So she had grass on her dress, dirt on the dress. We had to wipe it all off, so she fell down.
Yeah, gotta practice.
Okay, practice the dip. Practice the dip. That's my next wedding tip Wednesday. Practice the dip. There you go.
Yes. Actually, to go along with that,
yes.
Tip number 3, have something, you like to have a couple moves in your first dance maybe.
Yeah.
Like maybe just something different than the little swaying back and forth, which is totally fine. Like
totally
just spin
fine.
her around a couple times or something, just to add to it a little bit.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
That's good, really good advice. You need to go get lessons.
Need to go crazy. Exactly.
Just practice in your living room, whatever your song is, and just do a dip. And then practice, a spin kind of thing like that.
Yeah, and then a lot of people aren't even doing full songs anymore for first dances. They're cutting it off.
They're cutting it off in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Right, which is interesting.
There's a trend right there.
That's a trend.
That's a trend right there. People are doing their first dances, cutting the song in half. I had one father-daughter be done in 30 seconds.
Oh,
the DJ told me, he goes, you better be quick. And it wasn't anything bad. The dad just had a bad back or a bad knee.
Oh,
so I get that.
Okay.
So he told me, you're going to have to get all your shots right in the beginning because it's only 30 seconds long, and then he needs to sit. So that's great advice, is practicing your dance prior to your wedding.
Yeah. The other thing is just communicate with your videographer. I feel like sometimes we get put in a bucket of they don't need to know everything that the photographer knows. I definitely would like to know as much detail as possible.
I disagree with that. I feel like you should know just as much as I know.
Yeah, so some people I feel like aren't oversharing, and then especially with the reception details, the time comes and I'm like, what's going on?
Yep.
So that's why I love having a planner, because I can ask them what's going on in case I'm missing anything, but just share as much detail as possible. Yep. I'm not trying to know every little thing, but the more that I know, the more that I can capture. So I think that's fun.
But one document from them of their itinerary, whoever creates it for them, whether it's their wedding planner, I create the wedding itineraries for my brides. One document can be shared to your DJ, your video, your wedding planner, and your entire by email. Yep. So we all get the same thing. So all of us have the same plan. That's a good advice on a wedding planner to be able to, on a bridal couple.
Yeah.
Do a document, do a Google search, and do a Google document, and just put all your stuff inside of there, things that you need to know, anything that you need to know, and just update it, and then send it to your wedding party, your vendors. And now we all have the same document, so there's nobody like, okay, what's happening next? Well,
exactly.
So
I like to know.
Yeah.
Last tip
you should know. I feel like you need to know.
Yeah, and it's just because I don't want to miss anything.
No.
Because there are the obvious moments. You're going to have a kiss at the end of the ceremony. You're going to have a first dance.
That's obvious.
Likely. But if there's a special moment where you want to have a first dance with your mom and you're going to play a song in the middle of the, the dancing, and you're going to dance with your mom, and I go to take a bathroom break, I'm not going to know.
Yeah.
So just, making sure you tell people that.
Yeah.
The other thing, the last tip I will give is designate someone, preferably like a maid of honor most likely, to help you with fluffing your dress or taking your bouquet when you're not going to be using it. Make sure pick one person who knows to help, because so many times I'm I have my camera and my gimbal here and I'm running up and I'm fluffing the dress. It's someone should help with that so that it's not wasting any time.
That should be number one.
Yeah.
That should be number one, because 3 things happen. Some people just don't know how to fluff a dress. They're kind of delicately moving, slipping pick it up, give it a good waft, kind of thing like that.
Especially if it's a big train.
Just let it flow. Right there. Yep. Second, helping you with your dress, helping you hold your flowers.
Yes.
You need something, a drink or a sip or
a tissue or something.
Anything like that. And
have someone bring you food.
For the love of God, have somebody know how to do bustling.
Oh, true.
Not just your wedding person, not just your maid of honor. Bring another person that's like a friend or a coworker. Hey, can you come? Just learn this with her so that we have 2 people learning how to do this, because when it's time to bustle, somebody's gone to the bathroom or something like that. That's great advice, though. Yeah, that's great advice right there.
I've never had anyone have an issue with bustling.
45 minutes.
Complicated? Whoa, that's a lot. Yeah. Oh my God.
This wedding, you talked about stories before. This wedding was 45 minutes late. 45 minutes late.
That's so stressful.
I'm working with this DJ, and we're getting it. I shot as fast as I could for all of the formal pictures. Click, click, click. Got it all done. And it was like a cattle call. But they knew I had to be that way because of the time. I made it all up. We were 15 minutes behind now. I made up 30 minutes of doing all of my pictures. We're 15 minutes behind. 15 minutes can be absorbed someplace, whether it's the toast or whatever. We can figure it out. The DJ's like, don't worry about it. I can make that up to be back on track. All right. Okay, we're going to go bustle. They were gone for 45 minutes because nobody knew how to bustle the dress.
Wow.
We went back to 45 minutes being behind again.
Oh my God.
Because of the bustling in the dress.
See, I wouldn't even, that's not something I would even think of.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I've never been married, so I don't know like the details of how what happens when you buy the dress. I assume when you buy the dress, they tell you how to bustle it.
Oh yeah, and they show you. They give you a video and everything.
Okay.
But it just still takes people forever to bustle. And it's one thing that's not added to a timeline.
True.
There's no time, meaning if you're early or late, if you get it the first time or it takes you 45 minutes, everything else behind that gets absorbed.
Dang, that is crazy. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Bustling the dress is a DJ and photographer's nemesis because you don't know. I had 4 people working on this bride 3 weeks ago. 4 people. Now we did all the first look. We did the formals. Everything's good. We had a half an hour to kill before we went inside. And literally, when it came time to bustling the dress, after the ceremony was done, we came back to the thing. We had everything was done. It took 4 people to get this girl's bustle done.
Wow.
Because a lot of times they can't find the pins. They know this ruffle goes up here. They know this goes, but they can't find the pins. And you can't make them fluorescent. I know that because it's going to be in the dress.
Right.
But they just could not find the pieces that went up to this, and they mark them with safety pins.
Right.
But you have to take the safety pins out to do the wedding. So
that is intense.
Challenging. Yeah.
Wow. Huh. That's a big detail.
Yeah.
I never thought of it.
Yep. Bustling of the dress.
I have a girl, my last wedding this weekend, she is going to do a total dress change. Have you seen like complete outfit changes from brides? Yeah.
Not very often because it's an expensive process.
True. Very true. Yep. I had someone do that at the reception. She came in her dress, but then when it was time for dancing, she put like a different outfit on. It was cute.
Yeah. And it's a nice, some brides just don't have the finances to do that.
Yeah, some people are like, if I'm paying this much for my wedding dress, I'm wearing it all night, which I totally get.
Totally get. So yeah, that's another thing that I don't see very often is a second dress because you spend so much money on the dress. It's like I'm wearing this all night long and I'll go to sleep in it.
I respect that.
Exactly. And then they'll hold on to that dress. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of things when it comes to the wedding. I don't feel like, I feel like 2025 is going to be even better than 2024. I feel like once the election, a lot of people don't do things in election year because of election and they don't want to spend any money, and there's a philosophy and a fear around what's going to happen with the presidency. I feel like my gut instinct for 2025, I think it's going to be absolutely remarkable in a sense that I feel like a lot more people are going to start. We talked about wedding season. Engagement season happening now. Once that Thanksgiving rolls around, then Christmas rolls around, and then New Year's rolls around, and then that Valentine's rolls around, this is where people are going to start getting engaged now. So they're going to start looking next year, and they're going to start looking for all their vendors that they're going to need. I feel like 25 and 26 are going to start filling up fast because people are starting to realize they need to book their vendors early. Yeah. They really, really need to book their vendors early, and you should be, the venue, the date has to be the first thing, and the venue, those go together. So if you get the venue and you don't get the date you want, you accept another date, those two things have to be the two things. So I can't talk to any person unless you get those two things.
Agreed.
The next thing people do either prioritize photo or DJ. Yep. Either music or photo are the two things they prioritize right after that. The dress is coming up soon, but they want to get all of the other stuff like that. Yeah. I feel like, in my opinion, I still have people reaching out to me now for next year for video. I feel like video is starting to come back into play, where back in the 90s, video was very popular during weddings because it was a whole different element, and video was, different back then.
It was.
Now the videos are connected to social media so much that they can take content creation, they can do a whole bunch of stuff, and it's very fun to see like that. But I think 25 and 26 is going to be absolutely remarkable, regardless of what the economy does. People are still going to get married.
Yep.
People are still going to get married.
I'm hoping to take on at least 10 weddings next year.
Yeah.
I think I had 6 solo this year, and then I shot a couple.
I think 10 would be a minimum for you.
Yeah, I hope. I'm going to try.
No, I think 10 is going to be a minimum for you, because I feel like there's now people starting to reach out for more videographers now than I feel like they did in 23, 22, and 21.
I do feel like it's still, for some people, like if we have money in the budget, we're going to look.
That's exactly what it's going to say. Yeah. You
I had
are right.
people reach out to me at the beginning of October for their wedding at the end of October.
Yep.
I said, I can't do that.
Yep.
I would feel comfortable. I could do one in 6 months.
Yeah.
Nothing less than that.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you mind me asking why if somebody called you up for a December wedding, they decided they came across a budget and we've got some money, we want to hire you?
Fair. I really want to shoot a winter wedding, so I would say yes.
Okay. Let me pick something else.
Why
do you need 6 months?
I like to establish some sort of a connection with people. I do touch points with clients like multiple times up until the wedding. So I feel like if I have 6 months, I have time to get to know them.
I only do engagement sessions.
Okay.
And that's
But you have calls.
I get a call 1 month prior
Yep.
To the wedding. We do an engagement session about 8 to 12 months before their wedding for their engagement session. Other than that, I do not interact with my clients unless they reach out for something or they want to add something to the package or something like that.
Yeah.
There's no interaction with any of my clients until. Yeah.
I think the 1 month turnaround would just be way too quick. I just need to feel prepared as much as possible. That's all.
Okay. That's good to know.
But I would take a winter wedding because I really want to do one.
I think, I don't do many, but I really feel like it would be kind of cool to do one with actually snow on the ground.
Me too.
I did a winter one in January at the beginning of this year, and both of them in January was cold, but no snow on the ground. And it's the luck of the draw.
Right.
I'm up on a mountaintop, and there was no snow on the mountaintop. So there was a little bit of flakes coming through, but not enough to legit be a storm kind of thing like that. No snow on the ground. So you can still do a winter wedding with no snow.
I know.
So it's just the weather is the most unpredictable thing in New England when it comes to that.
Yes.
Anywhere for that matter, but New England, you have to. You have to.
Yep.
And you're not going to see tent weddings in January and December,
no,
unless it's a heated tent when it comes to that, which is possible, but that's rare. But yeah, I was just curious about how you would approach if somebody called you up in 2 months to do something like that. So you would definitely
could. I would consider it.
Yeah. I think 10 for a minimum for you next year would be a goal for you. I feel like the talent is there, the creativity is there, the professionalism is there. You have got all those pieces lined up. It's just a matter of now you just got to get your clients and you just got to get the social media out there and you just got to do all of that stuff to put yourself in position for that.
Yes.
But
I got a few wedding videos that I still need to wrap up. And then I'll have one more after this. And I want to make a bunch of Instagram reels. I want to run a bunch of ads.
Yep.
And I'm going to see how it goes. If I get more than 10, great.
Yeah.
I would love that. Because I've really enjoyed it this year. So I want to hammer it next year.
Yeah. And I think you will. I think there's going to be a combination of a lot of different factors that come into play. But I feel like the work is out there. I feel like the work is there for you. Like I said, the work ethic is there. The professionalism is there. Everything's there for you. And now it's just a matter of getting in front of that client that has the budget. And photo and video. Some people, I get approached all the time. A bride will call me up, do you do photo and video? And I don't. All my cameras are capable of doing it, but I stay in my lane and I do photo for that and I knock it out of the park and that's what I do. Oh, you need somebody? Here's 3 people to call. Call them up and then you figure out which budget is best for you that works inside of there. But a lot of people I've noticed in the past 6 months have been asking for video.
Okay, that's good.
I only see that trend going further into 2025. I only see it going further.
Too.
Content creation, that's a whole other conversation when it comes to that.
I haven't seen a content creator personally at a wedding, but I know that it's becoming very popular.
It is. It is.
And I think it's a little bit of a threat to video because it's a more affordable option for video.
It is a much more affordable option. The end result is different.
Very different.
The end result is you're getting a couple of hundred video clips for your social media if somebody's like that much of an influencer, as opposed to what you get from a videographer, which is a cinematic or however you edit it. Exactly.
Yeah.
When you're putting that inside of your TV and you're playing that, that is a sit down moment for parents and grandparents and the bride and groom to sit down and not entertain, but be entertained by that.
Yeah.
Social media and content creation is completely different. It's, to me, it's apple and orange. Yes, they're still doing video, but these are just clips.
Yep.
And yes, you could put music to them. Yes, it's for your social media, but the highlight reel film that you're getting from your videographer, that is something that is just like a whole nother animal. That there's an elegance about that. This is that social media itch. It's not the same. In my opinion.
No,
they're
it's
both great.
Different.
They're both video. They're both great. But I feel like, they're just different.
Yeah, it's a different level of professionalism. And I feel like because of such like the instant gratification era of social media, and because of you savvy photographers who are delivering sneaks, I don't tell my couples this, but I surprise them with a trailer the next day.
Wow.
So that's another reason why I back up my stuff right away. I'm going to deliver them a 30-second reel of some of the highlights of their day so that they can really see like what the result's going to look like. It's just like a little sneak peek.
It builds that anticipation. It builds that anticipation.
Because I feel like it's not fair to have to wait. Like, it does take a long time to edit a wedding video. I will tell you that.
Yes, it does.
And I take my time because I want it to come out great. And I feel like I would just feel so bad if I made my clients wait so long for a wedding video. Like, I would hate that anticipation. So that's why I give them a little sneak peek. And they love it. That's what builds the anticipation for them looking forward to the final product. And they have something to post on their social media for them to see and show their friends and family, this is what's going to be coming up. Check out this. And I feel like that's for me to send a, champagne toast picture the next morning or a highlight picture of their formal pictures or something like that. Sometimes if there's elderly couples in there, I'll do like a fun picture of the bride and groom, but I'll send a nice picture of their grandmother moment together so that they can send that to the grandmother or show the grandmother. But definitely a lot of the parents and grandparents are definitely involved in their kids' weddings to the point where I always shoot traditional, meaning all the guys on one side, all the girls on the other, and then we get that traditional shot. And then parents and grandparents, they're happy with that. Then, hey, let's have some fun. Let's stagger, let's play, let's have some fun, let's do some. And then that's what the other people, the brides and groom, tend to gravitate to after that. Gotta get the fridge shots, right? The ones people are gonna print out and put everywhere in the house.
And those are the ones that tend to traditionally end up on the mantle, kind of thing like that.
Gotta get the classics.
You have to. And I feel like that's what professionalism is all about, is doing the classics and getting that done. Any other questions that you want to address? Any questions for me? Any questions on the trend? Any questions on history or where you feel like the wedding industry is going?
I think we covered a lot.
I think we covered a lot.
Shoot more weddings together next year because it's so fun. It's such a pleasant experience.
It was really good. I work with a lot of good people, and I tend to gravitate to the ones that are like-minded, professionally wise and work ethic wise and creativity wise. And those are the people that I gravitate to when it comes to that. But I love doing all of this stuff. But I don't have any other questions for you. I feel like we covered everything. I feel like we did. And if it was wedding related, it was business related, and it was definitely industry related when it comes to that. We just got to figure out now, where the next trend is going to come from and what it's going to do and how it's going to affect the economy and things like that. So
because we always have to adapt, right?
You have to, because if you don't, you're going to drown, and you're just going to, it's a sad statement. It is the absolute truth when it comes to that. Absolute truth. All right. Anything else?
I think so. I'll have to have you on my podcast.
Yes,
that was great.
for sure.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for coming back to the channel. K Ebner Creative. I got the mug to prove it. K Ebner Creative. I'll put all of her information down below. Look her up on social media. Follow her. Check out her website. If you're interested in stuff like that, definitely get involved with something like that. So thank you guys for coming back to the channel. Remember to smile more because it hurts less. Peace.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
That's a fun tagline.
And look at my battery is just about to die.
Oh, perfect timing. There we go.